The DeFi space is filled with projects that are not going to last more than a few months, more than a year, and in 2022 we saw a whole variety of different projects absolutely collapsing. And if you're like me, you probably invested money in these thinking you would make 25 Lambos and you didn't make anything, and you probably lost money along the way. Now, of course, there was some money to be made if you played these right, if you were early enough, and you were taking profits along the way. But on the other hand, if you're holding and holding on for dear life, you've probably not made money on these projects. So let's go all the way back at the beginning of 2022. Let's talk about Wonderland time. This one here was one of the first one offering a crazy APY. It was around 80 to 100,000% APY, and this was supposed to be all demand driven. They had their time token, then they also had memo, and then you could wrap your memo, and that's basically the entire project. And as we know, it failed absolutely miserably. So this was probably one of the first times most of us started hearing about crazy high yielding APYs, and what ended up happening after that was, of course, Titano, and we had this whole rebasing phase, and we also had the entire node phase, which we'll get into right after Titano. So Titano's dashboard actually shows a price of 0.0000, so it's literally worth absolutely nothing. And if we go take a look at the chart of Titano, this is essentially why rebasing projects just simply don't work. And if you're in a rebasing project right now, it's probably going to do something similar than what Titano has done. So as we can see, the price is of course 0.00003459. You see the chart here, it's absolutely disgusting, and it's still printing 102% APR, and it's just simply not going anywhere. There's simply no utility for Titano, and this was actually one of the projects I was covering on the channel, and I quickly realized what was happening and switched my view on it. I still have my Titano bag, but I've only put $150. I think now I have about $50 worth of it, and I just don't really care too much about this money. So that's Titano in a nutshell. I mean, I'm not even sure why it's still around, but it is still around, as you can see, displaying a nice whopping $0 price for its token. Now, if we take a look at some of these nodes and these fake nodes, there were so many of these coming out every single day in the months of April, May, or even March, April, May. So many projects were coming out and so many people were investing in nodes, and I myself was also investing in these. Now, we're not going to take a look at all of these, but Cronodes was actually one of the first ones I invested in. I was able to make some money with this one because I was taking profits after the absolute bloodbath of Time Wonderland, of Titano. I kind of understood that I needed to start taking profits, and that's probably the biggest lesson I learned throughout this entire node and rebasing era of DeFi, is to take profits when you have profits, because even though you think you may get 25 Lambos, the reality of things is that you're not going to, and you're probably going to lose your money. So instead of dreaming big, why not take profits along the way? But basically, Cronodes was one of those node projects, essentially didn't have any utility. It was a huge Ponzi. People were coming in, buying nodes, and they were using that money to pay out other people who held nodes. That was the case for Cronodes, was the case for the Tavern. This one here, it's absolutely insane that I even invested in this. Again, a lot of people probably did invest in some of these. We also had Kronos node. At least now they are moving away from the nodes and they kind of have their DEX and this whole ecosystem. But there were so many other node projects or fake node projects that came out in 2022 promising the world and just simply not delivering anything. Now, if we take a look at another project that most of you are familiar with, we have yield nodes, and essentially the whole fiasco that's been happening, or that happened a few months back, them basically locking people in for the next year or so, and you're essentially not able to take out your money, which it goes again to show that taking profits when you can, or avoiding projects and protocol that have a crazy lockup period like 6 months, is probably not the best idea. Of course, it all comes down to your risk slash reward tolerance. And for me, I'm not necessarily too keen on locking up my money for 6 months, for a year, so I tend to avoid those projects. Now, to name a few others, we can talk about Horde and when they launched their LMS system, which is the liquidity management system. A whole revolution happened in DeFi. All of these new projects after Horde were using some sort of price stabilizer or range stabilizer, and people wanted to get in on the action. And right now, I do believe Horde is having a tough time. They're doing some sort of migration. I actually never invested in Horde, but I know so many people who were invested. A lot of money was definitely made on Horde, but at one point in time, this LMS system was simply just not sustainable. Now, if we take a look at other projects who've used the LMS and used a liquidity manager, typically it goes well, and then sometimes, and most times, it just crashes after a certain point. Now, if we take a look at another rebasing project that's currently still active, we're talking about Optimus. This one here, in my opinion, is just another rebasing project. This was all hyped up because of trading bots. It was another trend in DeFi. We were talking about trading bots and people were excited about those. And then we had a protocol that was basically rebasing 1% daily, promising that because of trading bots were sustaining that 1%, which is evidently not the case. And as we know right now, the price of Optimus is around 12 cents and it was once at $1.60. So we all know what that means. So with all of that, there are so many projects who guarantee you the world and simply do not deliver. And I've started to really look at the team behind the project rather than the project itself. And that is kind of what I'm going to be basing my strategies on going forward. I do want to invest in some projects, some riskier projects, because I may have a higher risk tolerance than others. But again, I'm not investing money I can't afford to lose. And I am going to be taking profits along the way, because in 2022 we saw so much hype around so many different projects, people saying it was going to last forever, having massive promises by developers, by the team, for them to just simply not do anything and to see the project crash. So 2 tips for 2023. Obviously, only invest money you can afford to lose. Don't think that because you're invested in something, it can't go down, because it probably will go down. And number 2 is, of course, take profits along the way. Don't always just compound. Take some money off the table, make your return on investment. And that rings a bell to Stable Fund V1, because of course now we Have Stable Fund V2. Good luck to everybody who's in that, but I am not participating. I was in V1 of Stable Fund. We all know how that ended. I don't see how V2 is any different, but of course that's just my opinion. So with all of that being said, that is a quick recap of 2022 in a nutshell, under 12 minutes, with only a few projects, a few different strategies we've seen throughout the year. Let me know down in the comment section below which project or investment was the worst one for you this year, and what are you trying to change in 2023. So if you did enjoy, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.